Welcome back to Home Sweet Home Cooking. I am your host Rocky in my mother's kitchen again, and my mother is sitting off to the side. This is something that you've made biscuits before, but usually Bisquick, things like that.
I've made them from scratch also.
But it's been a while.
Yeah.
And she's made the gravies for it, so she's going to sit this one out. I've done biscuits and gravy. Oh, by the way, today's recipe is biscuits and sausage gravy. So technically you're getting 3 of the Southern Essentials. Number 4 on the Southern Essentials survey I did is biscuits, so I'm going to do biscuits. Number 7 is gravies, all sorts of gravies, so I'm doing a sausage gravy. And then on top of that, people still voted biscuits and gravy together. So biscuits and a gravy technically appear 3 different places on the chart. Very important here in the South, and it's also very easy. So I'm going to get started, watch the intro, and I'll be right back. So to get started on the biscuits, we're going to need 2.5 cups of self-rising flour. Everybody down here, well, I don't know about everybody, but White Lily seems to be the favorite. It is actually made from a softer wheat, so the flour, when it makes a biscuit, it's a little more tender and not as tough as some of the other flours out there can be. So I always use White Lily if I can get it. If not, I've used King Arthur and Martha something or other. They'll work, but I just like the White Lily, and it should be self-rising. If you can only get all-purpose, you can add baking soda, baking powder, salt. You just got to find that on the internet to find out the amounts that you need. But I'm going to start with 2.5 cups of the self-rising flour. It calls for 1 stick of frozen butter. You want to keep this cold because it's going to melt as it bakes, and that's what's going to form your kind of layers to the biscuit. So I just pulled this out of the freezer before I started videoing, right as I'm getting ready to use it. You're going to take your box grater, and I'm just going to set this right in the flour and grate 1 stick of butter. Once it's grated, you're just going to give it a little mix with your hand. Get the butter coated with flour. And then, I'm serious, you want the butter as cold as possible, so you've already had your hand on it and it warmed that butter up some. You want to get this in the freezer for 10 minutes. So I'm going to put it in the freezer, we'll be right back. Alright, just pulled this out of the freezer just now. It's been in there 10 minutes. The next thing you're going to do is make a little well in the middle. Just kind of spread the dough out, not all the way to the bottom. 1 cup of cold buttermilk. And you're going to stir. You do not want to over stir this, they'll be tough. About 15 times. Once it's mixed, it's going to be a wet, sticky dough. You want to add, I switched from my self-rising to all-purpose because it's just easier. A little bit to your work surface. And you want to coat your rolling pin. And you turn it out onto your surface. Add a little bit of flour to the top. And first, you're just going to get it into kind of a rectangle shape. You want to go about 3/4 of an inch thick. You're going to fold it 5 times. 1. Roll it out again. 2. 3. 4. And 5. Just a little more flour. And now you're going to roll it out to about a 1/2 inch thick. And when you're doing your cutting of your biscuits, about a 2.5 inch cutter, you want to get a little flour on there. Do not push down and turn, you just want to push straight through. And back up. Just gonna set these off to the side. I'm gonna form back the dough, but when I form back the dough, I'm not gonna knead it too much because that's gonna make it tough. So basically, to reform the dough, just gonna make sure I got a little flour down, and I'm just gonna kind of bring it together like that. A little bit of flour. Quick roll. And cut again. I have the oven preheating to 475 degrees. Inside the oven I've got a cast iron pan. You can do these in a cast iron pan, which I'm going to do. Or you can just put a piece of parchment paper down on a cookie sheet and bake them that way. Now I got these a little bit thinner than a 1/2 inch because I'm not looking for big tall biscuits this time. I want a smaller biscuit because I'm trying to control what I eat. So mine are going to be a little bit less tall, but they're still going to have all that great flavor. And I've got a dozen biscuits out of it. So as soon as that's up to 475 degrees and the pan is warm, I'll bring it back over and we'll finish up. Alright, pan is pulled out of the oven. It's just about to 475 degrees. Now, you can, like I say, you put it on parchment paper on here, you'll have biscuits. If you like the way your cornmeal turns out, with the crisp bottom when you put it in a pan with bacon grease, do it in a cast iron pan, melt you a little bit of butter. That's going to give you a little more browner of a bottom, and a little bit of a crisp, so it'll hold up better to things like, well, gravy. So I want to layer these in there. You want them touching. If they don't touch, they're not going to rise. Actually, touching to the next one actually gives it something to climb up to. That'll help your biscuits become taller. And I'll have 4 extra biscuits to put on this sheet. And they're going to go back in the oven, 475 degrees preheated, for 15 minutes. I'm going to get these in the oven, then I'm going to explain some different options you can do with this, so I'll be right back. Alright, well that's got to start. I'm going to give credit for the recipe. I'm taking this recipe right off the myrecipes.com website for the amounts of times and all that. Simple recipe, I like it. So if you want to make the crunchy bottom biscuits, pan with a little bit of butter, or just on a regular pan with parchment paper. So if that's one of your options, is in a cast iron pan with a little bit of butter. If you want a pillowy dinner roll type biscuit, kind of like you get with Bojangles or Popeyes, then you would use a 1/2 cup of cold shortening instead of the butter, and you get, let's see, yeah, just the shortening instead of the butter. If you want a sweet shortcake type of biscuit, add 2 tablespoons of sugar to the flour and replace the buttermilk with heavy cream. That's going to give you put your strawberries on top and you have a shortcake type biscuit. And here's another option they came up with. If you want a pickle biscuit, why not, I guess. Stir in 2 tablespoons of drained pickle relish into the buttermilk before adding to the flour mixture. Split baked biscuits and top with ham and mustard for the world's best ham sandwich. Interesting. Relish inside of a biscuit? Who knows? Might want to give it a try. But those are the different variations they have. So again, Credit to this recipe goes to myrecipes.com, and we'll get the biscuits out here shortly, take a look at them, because I'm gonna need that pan back to make the sausage gravy. So we'll be back in just a moment. All right, I pulled them a little bit early because these here that are on the pan got a little bit, started to get a little bit dark on top. The ones in the pan though, however, look fantastic. So the last step is I got some melted butter. Just gonna brush the tops with a little bit of melted butter. And now I gotta get this pan, I'm gonna dump these out onto here, and I'm gonna get this pan back on the stove. Oh, I wanna check the bottoms of these because like I said, they're got a little more brown, got a little more crisp on the bottom because I buttered the pan and put them in a hot pan. Like I said, it'll be like the cornbread. It has that little bit of crisp layer. So I'm gonna get started, get this cleaned up, and I'll meet you back over at the stove and we'll get started on the sausage gravy. All right, so yeah, let's start with the biscuits. These are the ones that were in the pan that's got the crispy bottom.
I always show up for the taste test.
That's good biscuit. It's a really good biscuit. Now, let's go ahead and ruin it, because screwed up on the sausage gravy. So I'm gonna get a part pass and a part fail. It got away from me. It had too much grease in it, put too much flour in it to make up for it, and the gravy is very floury tasting and kind of gluey. Let's see if being on a biscuit helps. Nope. Well, biscuits are done. Biscuits and gravy I did not get. So I'm gonna have to redeem myself in another video. And well, thanks for watching, but we're gonna get to do this one again. And I'm gonna succeed yet. I've made great biscuit gravy before. Very great biscuit gravy. It was hard for me to film it over there with the camera in front of the stove. Not making excuses, but I got a little rushed and this is what happened. So I'll do it again and I'll get it right and I'll share it with you and maybe next time. All right, part of learning how to cook is doing better the next time. I ate some of it, it's edible. If I would have gone to a restaurant, I would have sent it back. What I'm gonna take from this are a few things. One is the quality of the sausage. This is a low quality, like an Aldi's brand sausage. I would not suggest using something like that. Get something better, get a Jimmy Dean, get something a little bit better. I crumbled mine up in the pan, which left a lot of the little pieces in there. Even if I took the sausage out, it was gonna leave a lot of smaller pieces in there and they'd get burned making the roux. That was a problem. So next time, I know somebody's gonna comment, cut them into discs, fry them as sausage patties. That way when I pull the patties out, there'll be just the grease left, and that's gonna help. And not as much grease. I couldn't get as much grease out of there as I like, so my self-critique is better meat, patties versus loose, and just do the roux by itself and go from there. So I think my mom agrees with me on that.
Yeah.
So we're gonna try it again and use those fixes and hopefully it works better. So y'all have a great day.